Hi, this is the Revolutionary Travel Family back in Palenque, and we're here with our very special guide, Victor. Victor, yes.
Damas.
And he was just describing to us about some of the recent discoveries in the migratory patterns of Egyptians and how they got to this particular landmass. If you can repeat that for me, Victor.
These people, they discover new information about how the ancient Egyptians was traveling from Egypt to South America, to Santiago de Chile. The other expedition was from Egypt to Peru by big navigation.
Wow.
And in Palenque is many proof about this origin. You can see Palenque face from Tutankhamun from Egypt. You can see Palenque symbol from Judas, Hanukkah or menorah. And it's a key of life from the Egyptians in the figure.
Yes.
This is in the palace, and this is mixed culture.
Yes.
Everybody called Mayas, but Mayas is a kind of big joking. Yeah.
I was trying to tell them, but I need them to hear it straight from your mouth.
Yes.
I was trying to tell them.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Victor.
Yes. Ancient level. This level, it was done by them. We're going to climb in about 4 or 5 meters. Is this high? Today you see new construction, but let me show you the old steps from more than 3,000 years ago. Those is the old steps over here. You see, it's still damaged. Passing time was destroyed. This construction, particular earthquake, and these steps, they was cleaner because they was covered with dirt. And when they cleaned it, they found like that. On top of those steps, they made these steps in 1998. And when they was discovered this, when they was working, on this side, there was discovered a little head from horse in clay from the time of these peoples. Because in the official history, there was no horse, there was no cattle, but this they prove other way.
Wow.
Other one is, if you visit Colombia, there is this village, San Agustin. In San Agustin, they really discovered a skeleton from horse, from cattle, from 2,000 years before Christ.
Wow.
In South America. And here we're going to climb in the new steps.
Breaking history.
We're going to see the old level. We're going over here. This is where they're working already. You see the corner on the left, and you see the corner on the right side. If they take it off the dirt, they're going to discover the rest of the construction inside of the nature. On the left is where was the steps, and the steps that was all disappeared, but that was the corner for the steps. This is the way it was Palenque in the very beginning. When these people was in here, it was a huge city, no vegetation. And after everybody died, nobody living in here, nobody working in here, is when vegetation growing. And vegetation damaged everything that is today destroyed. And that section is the palace front to us. On the left side, there was discovered in 2 times. On this corner, 1972, and from that pillar fall down to the left, 1990. That was all buried just like this.
Wow.
Completely covered with dirt.
Wow.
Yeah. And I don't know if you want to climb it for to see the specific symbols what I was talking.
Yes, we'll see I was wondering if I can get you to tell me one more time about the migratory patterns, how they came in.
In the ancient time, 8 or 10,000 years ago, this continent, it was empty.
Yes.
No persons, just the vegetation and animals. Name from this continent they call America. But in the Egyptian history, name from this continent, it was Punto, point. That was the name, point, in the Egyptian history. And this continent today they call America in honor to this man, Italian man, Americo Vespucci.
Yes.
In honor to him, they call America. And in this continent, 8 or 10,000 years ago, there was no persons. We are in the center, about 400 kilometers. On that direction is the Pacific. In the ancient time, people's coming on the Pacific in the big ships, Chinese, Hindus, Mongolian, Oriental, all kind of the Asiatic group coming from the Pacific.
Yes.
That is 2,000-3,000 years before Christ. On the other side is the Atlantic.
Yes.
On the Atlantic that was coming in the ancient time, Egyptians, Phoenicians, Babylonians, Hebrews, Arabian, Greeks coming from the Atlantic before Christ and after Christ, and this is how they was colonized this continent.
Yes.
The whole history of what we know is completely wrong, complete imagination, and they invented just to get a lot of money. The whole history is necessary to redone. Everybody learning Columbus was discovered America. This is not correct. Columbus is the last one which was visit this continent. Everybody read Aztecs, Toltecs, Olmecs, Mixtecs, Zapotecs, Totonacos, Tarascos, Tlaxcaltec, Chichimeques, Otomíes, Mayas, Incas in Peru, Chavines and Chiefs in Bolivia. They say coming by very straight, this is not true. Then they say, mother culture of Mexico is the Olmec, this is not true. Then they say, Mayas are short, this is wrong. Then they say, no wheel, no round stones. Then they say, no metal tools for to work in. Today you can see all of the temples, you can see all of the stones, and they never found stone tools. Because these people that was working with the metal, real steel, and steel rusted and dissipated. Ancient people, they traded steel from the Israeli culture and from the Asiatic. In that time they was working with the steel, with the gold, with the silver, with the copper, with the bronze, and those materials is still very, and iron dissipated. When you see the new steel from 1967, from 1972, is completely dissipated, roasted by humidity, and this is why some of the stones they cut perfect because they used saw in the ancient time, and with the stone cut rustic is chisel and hammer metal. This is what I've been in discovered. In here there was made a holes, all sizes, so fine, bigger holes, for to lift the stones or for to balance, to get a level. In the palace we're going to see millimetric holes from the ancient time.
Nice.
Living in the time of him, there was coming Hebrews with him.
Yes.
And that particular man, what they call Pakal, this is descendant from the Egyptian. This is what I saw in one of my dreams. This man was coming from Egypt. They built a temple and to stay there for wherever. This culture is a big mix. It is the proof. On the right side is a picture from the Egyptian god. In the center is a Chinese. On the left is Angkor Wat, Cambodia. All these figures are found in here. And in here there was a strong culture, Hebrew. This was a bigger, like a winner group. And it's what they call today Chol. I understand Tutankhamun was in the palace, and there is a big place for fiestas.
Yes.
In the official history, they call patio from prisoners, but this is wrong
Garbage.
identification. That was the place for high class. Is 6 steps, huge, very smooth, for to see the men's. Rustic steps, left, right side, and in the south is the steps very smooth, is where the women's was coming. And there was coming many women to make a fun to the men's. Those women that was dancing, we understand, naked. And men was happy to see the women dancing. Then they choose which woman they want to take it to make a sex, to make her here. And there was Tutankhamun. My question is, Tutankhamun was in Palenque. Before he's back to Egypt, they get a tobacco leaf from here. They get a cocaine from South America and back to Egypt. And he's never back to Palenque. And these women later, they have a kids, they have a boys, they have a girls with the Egyptian blood from Tutankhamun, and this is what people today never know for that. This is what I didn't discover. That is the strong culture in Palenque, and almost everywhere Egyptians. Next is Chinese. This is Chinese figure. And in here you see another Chinese figure. You can see typical Chinese. But a strong group from that time, it was the Egyptians. Egyptians are everywhere. Egyptians was in Yucatan, in Central America, in Tikal, and here is the Pimptons.
Egyptians were everywhere.
Yes, Pimptons from Bonampak, typical Egyptian. This is Bonampak, is not Palenque. In here is more proof. Here, in the east side, near to the border of Mexico and Guatemala. Those ruins, in one building is the inside, the Pimptons from Egyptians, typical. And about 1 hour more from Bonampak is the other ruins, Jaxilan. That was Egyptians and Chinese.
Yes. Just like this right here.
Exactly.
Okay.
The big chief in Palenque today, they call Pakal.
Pakal.
The Bonampak chief, Chamuan. Chamuan represent in one of the stela from 6 meters high. The man is standing. Left side hand is like this position. On the right side hand they have a stick, typical from the Egyptian. But on that stick they have a key of life from the Egyptian about this bigger. Is what we call the Ankh.
Yes.
2 Egyptian cross on that. Then in Bonampak and the murals is the Egyptian colors. Before the people climbing, on the left side where is 7 steps for to sit in, is the Asiatic figure, sumo, warriors from the Oriental sumo.
Yes.
And on top they have a construction for meditation. That is Bonampak, Egyptians and Hebrews. And in Jaxilan is the chief Burjawar 4. Burjawar 4 represent on the statue from Hindu or from Chinese.
Yes.
And the eyes you see very oriental, and they have a big stela, and in that stela they have a big man, and they have a short man. But the short man, on the head, they have a head from the snake, cobra,
Yes.
typical from the Egyptian. That is the origin from these peoples. These people, they went back and forth to the Greece, to Egypt, to Israel, from that side. And from the Pacific, there was Asiatics. In Mexico is the state of Chiapas. Next state is Oaxaca. Then is Guerrero. Then is Michoacán. Capital for Michoacán is Morelia. In Michoacán, they have villages with strange names. One village is Sin Sun San. It's very Chinese.
Very.
Next is Angangeo, Páscuaro, Paracho, Charanga, Quiringuiracho, Janitzio, Sumútaro. These very oriental names from those villages.
Yes.
And this is what people, they don't know the origin from that culture.
Wow.
And on this side, most of the people are Arabian or Egyptians.
Wow.
Most of the people coming from the Atlantic, 2,000-3,000 years before Christ. Particular with those people on the whole planet, sent them by the King Solomon. David was the father from King Solomon. After David died, Solomon received the power, and Solomon was more strong than from his father, and Solomon sending peoples to the whole planet to work in or to explore it.
Yep.
And it's the time when those Hebrews working in South America and in all this region. This is why it is in Peru very much Hebrews.
Yes.
Yeah, and in Bolivia too.
Bolivia.
Yes.
Wow. Victor, I would like to know, what would your message be to future generations about learning the truth about their history, and how to bring an awareness to all these cultures around the world? I mean, in a way of uniting the tribes in a way. Do you have any suggestions for our generation and their generation?
The generations, ancient peoples, for example, they're working, passing power from father to the son, from father to the son, first boy. And let me point in from this side of thinking fatal. And here is another proof what I'm going to explain it. On that pyramid is the only coffin, only sarcophagus from the whole continent. This temple is started with the number 9, and it's 9 steps front, 9 platforms in both sides, 9 steps at the entrance on top. The 9, it was represent when women carried babies. Just the boys, they was taken to that temple for to identify new power, new God, new king, new priest. Before the people climbing, there was eat, and front is a round table for to eat, for to drinking. Then in 4 pillars on top is the persons holding the kids, just the boys for to show the next power. Then inside, in the center of pyramid is a hall where was open to the public. People was walking east to west, 40 steps, south to north passage, west to east, 23 steps. That was represent born and rise, life, and when the people died. Way down there was discovered on the left, false passage. On the right side, wrong way. Front, there was discovered a small platform, and in that platform there was discovered 6 slaves. And on the other pyramid, under the ground, it was just the one man, is what they call Pakal. But this man, I saw in one of my dreams, he was coming from Egypt to build that temple, to stay there for whatever. He's never back to Africa. He's want to stay here. And in the ancient time, people keep a power from father to the son, from father to the son, and that was the function from that temple. This pyramid is the only pyramid for the moment in America with the Egyptian sarcophagus, Egyptian coffin. For this man is much confused. In 1952, when it was discovered, they called Halach Winik. Halach Winik is a big chief. Men from Yucatan, the Diaz Bolio, they call Kukulkan, Quetzalcoatl, feather serpent. In 1960, Erich von Däniken from Switzerland, he's called the spaceman, astronaut. The book, what he was done is Chariots of the Gods, The Goal of the Gods, plus movie. Then, in 1971, American woman, Linda Schiller, she's called Pakal. She from the sun, that is the name number 4. But University of Mexico, La UNAM, year 2015, there was given last name. Men from 9 houses, from 9 spheres, 5 names. And this man is not Pakal. This man I saw in one of my dreams. He was born in Egypt, coming from Egypt, to stay here for whatever.
Wow.
Before him, it was in Palenque, Tutankhamun. Before Tutankhamun, it was in Palenque, Akhenaton. Before Akhenaton, it was in Palenque, Ramses II.
Wow.
Those people wasn't here, and those Egyptians back to Africa. And what they call Pakal, he's want to stay here for whatever. Yeah.
Wow.
Whole channel for water.
Underground.
Exactly. I don't remember if the last time I was explaining it. They drilled holes outside of the pyramid.
Yes.
Near to the round table outside, they drilled holes and they found water, the spring water coming from the pyramid.
Wow.
And that water coming in here, running all the way to that. There was check under the ground, 50 meters only. From there to that, they checked 50 meters. That channel continued to the north. And to me, remind when the Egyptians died, the god of the dead, they get a spirit from the dead person and pass it into the water. Wow. And this is exactly same use.
Wow.
This discovery was done year 2012.
2012, huh?
Not long ago. There was made different times. This is what you see, those platforms. And those is the old steps. You see how they was walking. These steps are from west, then you see steps on the left, then they climbing into that way. And each king, they put new construction. This is why you see different layers.
Yes.
Most people, they visit the palace, but they visit last construction. Inside, I understand, is 3 floors, is still buried.
Okay.
My question is, how many mystery, how many treasures is still there?
Yes.
And this is the last construction. 1% from this is new one. In here you see this stone with the holes. If we would clean it, this is a perfect holes from the ancient time. This holes is for to tie the stone and to lift it.
Okay.
And before this stone it was bigger. When that king died, new king broken, and they used the stone for different construction, for the steps. But those that was on top before, those is a holes for to grab, to lift it.
Wow.
We're walking in here. Chinese, it was the first group who was built Palenque in the very beginning.
And stucco.
When the Chinese was in here, they have their own symbols, own inscriptions, own gods, and later there was coming another culture, is this.
They cut it out.
Called Masewales. Chinese, number 1, Masewales, number 2. When Masewales coming, they destroy the first culture, and it's what they represent, fight it. You see him, they get it, the other one from the headdress, and on the other hand they have a kind of a weapon, and this man squeezed the god from him. And you see the sandal. This one, we understand today that was coming from India.
Okay.
And this is an Egyptian. This particular kind of shoes is from the time of Nefertitis in Egypt.
Wow.
This is what we've been discovered. This is what you can see about Hindus. You see? They sitting in the lotus position.
Oh, nice.
Hindus, you see? Hindus. Hindus. And on top there was mask. This particular mask in Palenque, in Uxmal, in Chichen Itza, in Cava, they call Chak, God from the rain. This same mask in Teotihuacan, in Mitla, in Monte Alban, they call Quetzalcoatl, feather serpent. But this is not Quetzalcoatl, this is not Chak. This kind of mask you see in Laos, Vietnam, Vietcong, Thailandia, Cambodia, Angkor Wat, and China.
Yes, it does look Asiatic, yes.
Chinese, Hindu, and Egyptian. This one. From the half above body, you see Egyptian dress.
I see the garb, yeah.
Yeah, this is the origin from this culture. Big mix. You want to see the menorah. 6 and 7. This is menorah or Hanukkah. In here it was one design. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. What is mystic here? There you can see very clear.
Hebrew menorahs. Wow.
Over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. On top is finished. This is Judas. This is a big, big mix. I say in here there was people from everywhere. And this is why the people today, they don't understand. I was shown special steps and rustic. There was sitting the men, and in here where was the women's dancing. Now we still clean the stones. That one, they have a Egyptian dress. Her dress is from the time of Cleopatra. This is a kind of headdress on Cleopatra model.
Wow. Look at that.
It's very Egyptian.
Yeah,
sure.
2003 there was put this plastic, and that one is in very shape, in very condition. Because when they be exposed, nature disappeared.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
And on that side is a face from Tutankhamun profile.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Victor.
Yes.
This place probably was awesome when it was like.
Redone the history again.
Yes,
Maybe next year I'm going to start writing
yes.
about what do I know.
But I know you speak so many languages.
Yes.
You speak
Yes.
English, Spanish, Portuguese.
German, French,
Yes,
Italian.
yes, yes. So I'm definitely glad we came out here today. Glad we got to find Mr. Victor. This is exactly who we were looking for, so it's kind of perfect that we saw you as soon as we pulled up. It's a blessing. And just a reminder that, you know, the history that they teach us is garbage. Just about every culture was on this landmass before
Yes.
Europeans got
Yes,
here.
3,000 years before Christ.
Yes, and if you just look in that
They
direction.
went back and forth from the Atlantic and from the Pacific.
And they also came through the Gulf of Mexico.
Exactly.
Right? Could you, one more time, just list off some of those cultures that were actually here before the Europeans?
Yeah, the old discovery is in the south, about 300 meters through the jungle, and that was explored in 1999, and that was discovered figures from 3,309 years before Christ. The old group is still near to the Temple of the Sun, but into the jungle.
Yes.
3,309 years before Christ. There was discovered figure from India, Chakra. There was discovered figures from Babylonia. There was discovered figures from the Egyptian. That is the old section on that side.
Yes. Wow.
Palace, everybody see the last construction, but very old constructions is still under the disc without open.
And undiscovered.
Exactly.
So maybe in the next 20, 30, 100 years, we'll be
Yeah.
uncovering some of the
Problem
mysteries.
is a political kind of government. We have a wrong kind of peoples in the power, and they doing wrong things. The real history, the real job, they don't doing. And this is why we still lost the old history, because they are not good rulers. They are not good
Corruption.
persons. Exactly.
Lots of corruption.
Yeah, this is what
All over
happened.
the world.
Everywhere.
To maintain the same power structures, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
And the own number for Palenque is 7. There is 7 steps. Menor is 2, 7. 7 masks on top. 7 steps front. Where we sitting is 7 steps. 7 niches. Everything is done in 7. And this number 7 is in the whole planet. Is perfection. 7 represents so many meanings. Grace of the ground, 7 days. 7 days of the week. Rainbow, they have a 7
Colors, yes.
colors.
7 chakras.
Just 1 second.
I'm watching you, Judah.